Today in class online, I did a short demonstration about triangle pose and the hips and pelvis position that we're going for in triangle pose. I was then asked to make a quiz for you all regarding what I showed you. So before the quiz, I'm going to do the demonstration and hopefully be able to see at these camera angles. Now, the position of the pelvis is, for a beginner, it's going to be a little bit different than for somebody who's been doing it for a while. So there are some instructions in the dialogue that can be unclear, and they can mean more than one thing. So I just want to show you the hips. Now, I'm showing you a side view to start with, and I'm particularly concerned with what it means to say hips forward, okay? Now, as a beginner, it's really important that you get the bent knee turned, okay? Not turned, but pointing at 90 degrees to your front plane. The knee's got to be back in line with the foot and pointing in the same direction as the foot. So sometimes as a beginner, the hips forward can be a helpful cue to turn the hips so that you can get the knee turned out. I'm going to show that first, okay? So you might have learned it this way, and I had to do it this way when I started too. In order to get the knee back, I had to turn the hips in a certain way so that the front of the pelvis on the straight leg came forward. So I'm going to show you what that looks like, first of all. I'm just setting up triangle, hips forward, arms back. Now I'm going to turn my right foot out towards you, towards the camera. I can turn my foot all the way out, but when your hips are tight, that's hard, and you might have to turn the hips this way to sit down. A new student or somebody who's very tight, let me scoot a little bit further away. When they try to when they try to turn the foot, it might only go this much. The knee, see how the knee is pointing at this angle? So in order to turn the foot out, right, we don't want the knee going this way. It's really important that the knee goes straight out this way. So some people will need to turn. You see, I'm turning the hips a little bit to sit down. This knee pointing exactly in this direction is so important. I'm fine if you have to turn the hips. I don't want you to keep the hips facing straight ahead just for the sake of it, as if you're tight. So let's say you turn the hips. This is the front of the left pelvis. It's going to turn a little bit towards the right leg. Now the mirror's in front of me. I'm going to get into triangle pose. Bring the arms down. Now, I still have the hip turned. You see the front of the hip is kind of pointing this way. It's fine when you start, okay, because it allows me to keep this knee back. If I try to bring this hip back and the knee comes forward, we don't want this. You see from the side now, my knee's pointing not straight and my butt's sticking out, okay? So as a beginner, if you're tight, the front bone of this left pelvis may need to be turned so you can keep the body in a straight line, okay? So that's one thing. Now, as you get stronger and more flexible, and this can take any amount of time. It can take weeks, months, years. My triangle has only just improved, I feel, in the past 2 years or so, and this will be my 17th year of practice. So please don't rush or expect, why can't I do that yet? All right, but I want to show you what you're headed for with the hips and pelvis and triangle pose. Now, my email I sent out, I think it was early June of 2020, about tree pose. Getting the pelvis more upright, the technique of that, which is tailbone down, stomach in, trying not to stick the butt out, is very similar to what I'm about to show you in triangle pose. Now, again, like I just showed you, make sure you don't compromise the knee. The knee must stay back in that side plane with the foot, okay? So the movement of the pelvis is very subtle, and you just have to make sure it doesn't make you compromise the knee angle, okay? So I'm going to get into triangle pose on the same side I just did, but this time I'm going to purposefully not let the hip turn. I remember I was showing you the front of the left pelvis was coming forward so I could get the knee back. Now I'm going to keep the hips more forward and not turn, okay? This is what it looks like. And this is really how you open up the hips, okay? The hips forward, arms back, turn the foot, sit down. This thing called opening up the hips in my opinion and experience, has got to be done with strength involved. Any passive stretching you do to open up the hips is simply that, it's passive stretching. If you want the hip opening to last, you have to do it with muscle strength. Okay, so I've turned the foot out. Now before, remember, my hip was turning for me to sit down, right body is this way. Now I'm going to try to keep this left butt cheek pointing or reaching down as I sit down. So now my hips are more open to the front. The mirror's in front of me here. Now I'm going to go into triangle pose. Now I want you to see the difference. I'm going to sit down and touch my toes. Now pushing the hips forward does not mean do this. I don't want to see this from the side, okay? Now I'm not in a straight line from the side. Triangle pose is intended to be like tree pose and half moon. So from the side view, now you can see, I'm not sticking anything out. Hips forward means I take the back of my left butt cheek, I push it down and kind of under where the left thigh is. Almost like a one-sided tuck of the pelvis. Okay, that's what hips forward means. Okay, and then you come up. So hopefully you can see that from the side. The email I sent out about triangle pose with all the 6 versions also has some different manifestations of triangle pose. You can pick which one is correct. And I will have those posted online for you as well. So I look forward to continuing the conversation and see you online in class very soon. Bye-bye.